My fiancé cheated with my brother, then my family invited them over for dinner. So I took the ultimate revenge they never saw coming. I, a 25-year-old male, grew up in a pretty tight-knit family. I have a brother, 24 male, and a sister, 22 female, and was very close to my parents, 52 male, 50 female, spending every holiday and most weekends during college with them. We grew up in the suburbs of Minneapolis and all went to the University of Minnesota. A year ago, if you would have told me where I would be today, I would have laughed at your pessimism. But here we are. I met St. 24 female, during my sophomore year of college, and we dated until I proposed last December. She said yes, and we were planning on getting married next summer and spending our lives in Minnesota. But in April, my life fell apart. I came home early to find my brother in bed with my fiancée. I freaked out, left, and kicked her out of our shared apartment. Days later, she came back and said she had fallen in love with my brother over the years and that she was sorry, but he was where her heart was. She moved out, and I blocked her and my brother. Initially, the rest of my family took my side and banned my brother from family events. I slowly began to heal. A work opportunity came up. My boss pulled me in and said that he had suggested I leave the office in Chicago. They were in a bit of a mess, and the company wanted someone from headquarters to take over. I couldn't believe it, but I said yes. I never thought I'd leave Minnesota, but I thought it was time for a change. This all happened in early November, and the plan was to move after Christmas. My plan was to tell the family at Thanksgiving and then spend Christmas one last time before moving. But of course, my ex and brother had to stick the knife in one last time before I left. When I showed up for Thanksgiving at my parents' house, there were several cars, as the whole extended family comes over. So, I didn't even notice my brother's car. I entered the house, and the first thing I saw was my ex and brother talking with my aunt. I froze as my aunt called for my mom to come in. My brother and ex wouldn't look me in the eye. My mom and dad came in, greeted me, and asked me to sit down in the living room. I sat away from my brother and ex, but I saw the rest of the family, including my sister, sit closer to them. My mom started explaining that what they did was wrong and terrible, but that she hated that the family was split. She said I needed to work toward forgiveness. My ex and brother both started to apologize, but I put my hand up. I turned to my sister and asked her if she agreed. She had tears in her eyes but nodded. I asked my dad the same question, and he said yes pretty firmly. I was alone. I got up and walked out. I heard a couple of people yelling after me, but I didn't respond. I drove to a McDonald's, ate a pretty hasty Thanksgiving meal, and went through my options. I decided cutting them off was my best bet. I had saved plenty, I didn't need them, and they didn't know where I was moving. I blocked them all on my phone, but it was my parents' plan that I was on, so I turned the phone in the next week and got on my own plan. It doubled my cell bill, but it was worth it to get a new number. I blocked them on social media and told my boss that I wanted to move to Chicago early. I talked to the landlord of the apartment I was looking to rent, and he was happy to let me in early. I moved to Chicago on December 15th, and my family had no idea. A few friends knew, and it must have slipped because, last night, I got an Instagram DM from what I assume is my mom on a new profile asking why I would move without telling them. She said the family missed and loved me and that I needed to still make time for Christmas. I responded by saying that she only had one son now and that I was no longer family. I then blocked her new account and locked down my profile and other social media. I've been looking to change my last name as well. I've left that life behind and I'm excited to see what Chicago has to offer. Update. Can't believe it's almost Christmas again. I, 26 male, had a pretty terrific first year in Chicago. I'm dating a wonderful woman, changed my last name, and outside of one moment, have completely gotten my family out of my life. In January, one of my sister's friends, Jenny, 23 female, messaged me, wanting to know if I could help her move in and show her around, as she was moving to the city. Now, a smarter guy would probably have been able to figure out what was up, but she is very attractive, and I thought with something other than my brain. It was the weekend after the New Year, and when I got to her place, I saw my brother and father moving her stuff out of the U-Haul. I stopped in my tracks, but my mom had been looking out the window and called out to me. Everyone stopped and stared. I rolled my eyes and walked away. They chased after me and tried to get me to talk to them. My brother and ex were crying, saying they felt terrible. My dad finally grabbed me by the shoulder and turned me around, telling me to stop being a sass. Before I even knew what I was doing, I punched him in the face and kept walking away. Other people in the street stopped and stared. My family told me I went too far, but none of it mattered. I kept walking. Once I was on the L train, I messaged Jenny and told her what she did was cruel and that she should find someone else to show her around. I didn't expect to hear anything else from her, but to my surprise, I woke up 2 days later to a long message from her apologizing. She said she had done it as a favor for my sister. She knew what my brother had done and felt I deserved to live my life how I chose, but my sister had been insistent, and she felt like maybe she had missed something. Jenny told me that after the punch, my family walked back to her apartment and finished moving her in. She said she understood how I felt and thought I might like to hear the aftermath. Apparently, my father and sister really haven't forgiven my brother and think my mom let him back in too soon. My brother and dad got into a nasty fight, and Jenny asked them to leave because they were causing a scene. Jenny begged me to see her again and said she really felt bad and wanted to buy me dinner. I took her up on it. You'd also be naive if you knew Jenny, I promise. Luckily, I am naive. Jenny and I hit it off and have been inseparable ever since. We are heading back to Minnesota so she can introduce me to her family for Christmas. She actually cut off my sister and has promised I won't have to see them at all. It'll be nice to see my high school friends again. Hopefully, my family leaves me alone. Story 2. Dan and I have been married for 3 years, and 8 months ago, we welcomed our amazing son into the world. He was very planned and wanted, and motherhood has been transformative for me. I was able to take 4.5 months of maternity leave before going back to work. Without going into too many details, we both work white-collar jobs that require professional attire. A normal workday look for me is a skirt or pair of slacks, a silk blouse, pumps or boots, depending on the weather, but always with a heel because I'm 5 feet nothing. Maybe a blazer if I have a big meeting. Dan wears a suit almost every day. I also style my hair and do some makeup for work every day. This is what I wore before our son was born and what I continue to wear. Dan and I are pretty even in sharing parenting duties. I tend to take mornings because I'm more of a morning person than Dan. A normal morning for me starts early. Short workout, shower, get the baby up, get the baby ready, and hand the baby off to Dan because the daycare is on Dan's way to work. I'm normally dressed at the tail end of this process, but I keep my robe on over my clothes in case my son wants to give my outfit something to remember him by on our way out the door. For the last month or so, Dan has been more irritable than normal in the morning. There have been side comments if he gets up and I'm drying my hair or getting dressed, basically, if I'm not 100% focused on my son in the morning. Our son is happy, playing, and supervised, so I just chalked it up to morning moodiness. But it's been getting worse. Last night, I brought it up in what I thought was a neutral, non-confrontational way. Basically, his answer was this. His mom was 100% a mom after her kids were born. She gained a fair amount of weight after she had kids and never tried to lose it. She wore sweatpants every day and worked a job where she wore a uniform, so if she wasn't in her work uniform, she was in sweats and a t-shirt. She never did her hair or makeup. Her entire identity was being a mom, and she shared with him how hard it was to watch her kids start their own lives. Dan thinks I don't care about our son as much as he does since I worked on losing the baby weight and still put effort into my appearance. I feel like keeping this part of my identity actually helps me be a better mother. I love my son, but I'm still me, and I still have the things I like to do. Dressing well, blowing out my hair, and doing my makeup are therapeutic to me. Now that being said, my son is my life, and if I knew that not doing those things would guarantee him a happy, healthy life, I would stop immediately. I told Dan that my son and I have our morning routine and that he gets lots of time and attention before I go to the office. Dan said he wasn't looking to fight, but he just wanted me to think about my priorities and my time management. Is it normal for new moms to totally sacrifice all the things you like to do? Is this a sign of something deeper I need to address with my husband? TL.dr. My husband thinks because I take my time to get ready every morning, I'm not as good of a mother as I could be. Relevant comments. Why the hell does he care that much about your appearance if it doesn't actually directly affect your son's life? I am with you on this one. If it doesn't make a difference to how your son is treated, why can't you treat yourself and do your makeup, etc.? It's not like you're spending all that time ignoring your son. I don't really get why he equates how someone looks with how good of a mother they are. Even if his mom was how you described, there are so many others who are good mothers but also take care of themselves. If it's not affecting your son, I don't see why you would need to change what you're doing. Part of my job is sales and client service based. I feel like I have to look put together because that's what they expect. I didn't think it impacted my parenting. He should stop projecting his views of motherhood and memories of his own mom onto you. It's inaccurate and just a little creepy. It sounds like you're spending time with your kid, so he has nothing to complain about. I can't even begin to attempt the amount of logical gymnastics that would get me to think that dressing like a slob means you somehow love your kid more. It's basically that any time I spend doing stuff for myself is time that our son isn't the center of attention. But I am paying attention to our son, he's never neglected, and if I had to choose between straightening my hair and making my son feel better, my son wins without a second thought. Update. I had no idea my post would get so much attention. There was a lot of really solid advice and one creepy PM warning me that by dressing in business attire and wearing lipstick and heels, I was being overly sexual around my child and that it would turn my son into a serial killer. Stay gold. Reddit. A couple of clarifying points. My mother-in-law did work when my husband was growing up. She just did not have an office job. She works in the medical field and wears scrubs every day. When she's not in scrubs, she's in sweatpants. Seriously, for our wedding, his family started a pool about whether or not she would wear sweats to the wedding. I did not suddenly get sexy after my son was born. I was slightly overweight before my son was born, and I'm back to my pre-baby, slightly overweight shape now. The update. Dan and I went out without our son so we could talk. I told him that I was confused by his comment and wanted to talk about it. I asked him if he could name specific things about the morning routine that made him feel as though our son was neglected. I offered to switch shifts, so to speak, if he thought our son should have more AM parent time. To make a long and confusing conversation short, Dan is confused by the fact that I got over my postpartum depression and am back to normal now. For context, my PPD never made me question whether or not I loved my son or made me feel like we shouldn't have had him. My PPD made me feel like I was constantly failing my son, that I wasn't good enough to be his mom, and that he deserved better. There were a few times I broke down and started crying, and would tell Dan that he was so much better at being a parent than I was and that our son didn't deserve a shitty mom like me. Luckily, I have an amazing doctor who recognized that this wasn't just baby blues and helped me get the help I needed. It could have been much worse. Basically, Dan only felt like a good parent when I was failing and telling him I was terrible at it. Now that I'm doing better, he no longer feels like a good dad. It's shitty, but we're starting couples counseling. I'm continuing with the counseling I started for my PPD, and Dan's going to see someone too. We're going to figure it out, and I'm still going to wear heels to work, even though it's apparently going to turn my son into an axe murderer. TLDR. My husband felt inadequate once I dealt with my postpartum issues and tried to undermine me to feel better. We're getting counseling, and my baby is apparently going to be a serial killer. Story 3. Apologies in advance for the paragraphs, just looking for a gut check here to see if I'm being a bridezilla and get perspective on how best to navigate this situation. I, 31 female, am marrying James, 36 male next year. His brother Matt, 34 male, has been married to Paula, 34 female, since before I met James. Paula is very nice, and we get along well when I see her, which is once a year for the holidays, as we live across the country from James's brothers and parents. But we aren't close for the rest of the year. We have very different interests and lives and just don't really keep in touch. We FaceTime James's family every Sunday when Matt, Paula, and my future father-in-law and mother-in-law all get together for dinner, and Paula will usually say hi and then go back to whatever she's doing. Paula and I exchange happy birthday texts on our birthdays, and occasionally, she'll heart react a photo in the family group texts. That's about the extent of our relationship. This is all completely okay with me. I don't feel the need to force a closeness that isn't there, and as I said, we all get along great when we go home for the holidays. I'm in the middle of planning my bachelorette trip. We're not doing a bridal party or groomsmen, and I invited 6 close friends and family members who I have known between 8 years and my entire life. I mentioned something about the trip on the last FaceTime with James's family, and everyone was like, "That sounds like it'll be fun." We moved on, and I thought nothing of it. But the next morning, James was chatting with Matt, who said in a very offhand way that Paula wanted to know if I could send her the details for the bachelorette so she could get her flights and stuff. James was very taken off guard and was like, "I'll talk to her." And Matt was like, "Great, thanks," and then changed the subject. I am so baffled by this. Paula has never once given me an indication that she believes we are, or wants us to be, any closer than we are. We hang out once a year during the holidays. I can't remember the last time she asked me a question about myself. She didn't even text me when my dog died. Again, all of this is completely fine with me. I don't need my fiancé's brother's wife, who lives a time zone away, to be my BFF. But it truly never occurred to me that she would even want to be invited. If Paula were the one getting married, I would never in a million years expect to be invited to her bachelorette, let alone assume I was invited. This all happened on Sunday or Monday, and I still just don't know how to respond to this, especially because Paula didn't reach out to me directly. Here's the part where I'm worried I'm being an idiot. The path of least resistance would, of course, be to invite Paula. But I just don't want to. The friends and family who are coming to my bachelorette all have met each other already, mesh well, and are extremely important to me. I am the only person in this group who Paula has met, and we have such a surface-level relationship that I feel we barely know each other. The trip is going to involve a lot of hiking and outdoorsy stuff in a location that's very special and nostalgic to me. Paula prefers to stay indoors and has skipped the family's annual Christmas walk every year that I've known her. I don't think she would have a lot of fun, and I also don't want to be worried about her experience the whole time. Beyond all that, there's a part of me that really resists capitulating to the expectations of someone who hasn't even told me directly that she'd like to come. I would never dream of inviting myself to someone's bachelorette, let alone doing so via a game of telephone. We're heading to James's family for the holidays next week, and I am so anxious and truly don't know how to handle this. I really don't want to hurt Paula's feelings, but I want to be surrounded by my closest friends and family at my bachelorette, and we just don't have that kind of relationship. Do I just leave it alone and wait for Paula to bring it up? Do I proactively sit her down to talk through it? Do I just get over myself and invite her? Relevant comments. I don't think you're being a jerk. I also don't think she's being a jerk. I think it's very sweet that she wants to be included or would assume that she would be. It may be a very innocent misunderstanding based on how it was talked about and where audio may have dropped on a call. Take the win in knowing you have a sister-in-law who would literally get on an airplane to come celebrate you. That said, address this head and be kind. And do not make it sound like you're doing a favor by not inviting her. Oh well, it's not your kind of activity. Reach out and say, "Hey, James mentioned you were looking for bachelorette details for travel plans. I am really sorry. I think we had a misunderstanding. This feels awkward to address, but my bachelorette is just me and some of my oldest friends. I hope you understand. It means a lot that you'd be willing to join, and I'm so lucky to be marrying into this family. I can't wait to see you at Christmas, the wedding, whenever you'll see her next. Thank you. This is such helpful framing. I think this is a really good approach and I'll try it." In going full panic mode, I somehow did not even think about the possibility of this just being a misunderstanding. On the call, my Phil said something about a kayaking trip he took last year, and I said something like, "Oh, we just planned a kayaking day in place as part of my BAC," and everyone was like, "Oh, that'll be fun," and the convo moved on. If it was truly so mundane that I was really taken off guard the next day. LOL. Update. Thank you to everyone who weighed in on my post. I appreciate all the advice and thoughts, even from those of you who called me an idiot or privately messaged me to tell me to basically bully Paula until she uninvited herself. I will not be doing that, but thank you so much. After posting, I sat with my feelings and tried to figure out why I was having such a strong, "I don't want to invite her" response, given that we have always gotten along fine when we see each other. I came to the conclusion that what was really bothering me was the indirectness of it all. I couldn't understand why Paula didn't just reach out to me herself, and it made me worry that I had done something to make her feel like she couldn't. But I also decided that it was more important for her to feel included than for me to have the perfect, close-knit group trip I'd been envisioning. Like everyone pointed out, it's just one weekend, and she will presumably be in my life forever. I called Paula yesterday evening, the first time either of us has ever called the other, LOL, and the convo went like this. Me. "Hi, Paula, I'm about to send over all the bachelorette info, and I'm so excited that you'll be there. I just wanted to check in though, and make sure you know you can totally reach out to me about things like this going forward. I hope I haven't done or said anything to make you feel like you can't, and if I have, I'd love for us to talk it through. Paula." Long confused silence. That's really nice of you, but I think there's been a miscommunication or something. I hadn't been planning on coming to your bachelorette." Me. Also confused. "Oh, okay. I just thought since Matt asked me to send you the info." Paula. "He what?" Me. Confusion intensifies. Paula. "I'm going to talk to him real quick. Let me call you back." 10 very stressful minutes later, Paula called back and said Matt had gotten in his head, worrying that Paula was feeling hurt and left out, which she was not. She said, "No offense, this trip sounds like my worst nightmare," and he had the galaxy brain idea to parent trap us into thinking Paula was supposed to come on this trip instead of just talking to either of us. The end result is that Paula has no desire to come to the bachelorette and never did in the first place. Matt has apologized, and this all encompasses the most in-depth conversation about our feelings that we've ever had with each other. Growth. Gotta love a stoic Midwestern family. Paula and I are also going to get dinner over the holidays, which will be nice and hopefully an opportunity for us to get to know each other better. Thanks again to everyone who gave their input, and sorry if you were hoping for a more dramatic update.